And good afternoon, everyone. Good evening, or wherever time you're watching this program. We thank you for joining us. My name is Michael Joseph, and I'm the president of the Detroit chapter of the Coalition of Black Trade Unionists. And joining me, my co-host, our third vice president, Miss Lois Dinever. Lois, you can say hi to everybody.
Hi, Lois Lofton Donover. He wants to get that
I'm sorry,
Lofton.
but
That Lofton is very important.
Yes, ma'am, as you always tell me. And we have two very, very special guests with us today. And we're going to talk about a very important subject, the education of our children here in the Detroit area. So joining us, we have Mr. Terence Martin.
Good afternoon. Terence Martin, President, Detroit Federation of Teachers. Very happy to be here.
Welcome, sir. And my friend, Miss Angelique Peterson-Mayberry.
Good afternoon, everyone. I currently serve as the president of the Detroit Public Schools Community District Board of Education.
And again, we thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules. Just to let everybody know, we've been trying to get this program together, and they've been gracious enough to cut some time into their schedule to talk about a very important subject because they want you to know what's happening with our children in Detroit. So let's start talking about what just happened recently, the head count, absenteeism. They had the head count earlier in the month of October. It was an opportunity to gain an additional $10,000 in state funding. How did we do?
So I can start. We have been struggling to get back to pre-pandemic numbers. Prior to the pandemic, we had reached some pretty high numbers as it relates to what we've been able to do since emergency management. And so we had gotten to over the 50,000 student mark. And if you know anything about Detroit Public Schools, you've been following us as a community district, we have not had that increase in a quite a long time. But I remember back in the day when we were over 100,000 students. And so for many to hear 50,000 and us be excited about that probably doesn't make everyone warm and fuzzy. But for count day, we are trending to be higher this year than last year. So we had over 50,000 enrolled as of count day. And the latest numbers I've seen, 48,511 had attended school on Tuesday. And count day, that window was 2 weeks because there was a holiday that had come in for our Islamic families. And so we wanted to make sure as parents were reaching out saying, hey, listen, I just want to make sure that my child is going to be counted. However, they will not be in school that day. So there's a 2-week window. So we're trending to be higher than we were this time last year for sure, and trending to be closer to where we were pre-pandemic, Mike.
The district, though, and then Channel 4 recently did a report on the chronically absent young people. What are we doing to solve that problem?
So we have a couple of positions, and then I'll turn it over to my colleague, but we have a couple of positions at the school level. If you remember back in the day, we had truant officers. We had truant officers who will go to the homes based on attendance. And so we have attendance agents now. And that story on Channel 4, they actually followed. They spent the day with an attendance agent over at one of our school Gompers, and they were able to see some of the challenges, but some of the successes, but more importantly, some of the commitments. And so what we want to try to do is identify where are those gaps, where are those holes and those voids as to why young people are not coming to school, and try to address that. It's funny that in today's day and age, young people are decision makers in some of the homes. That was not the reality when I was in school. When I was in school, it wasn't a choice for me to go to school or not. But in some homes now, children are making that decision. So we've got to make sure that as we continue to educate our young people, that we're creating this space where they want to be in school, especially since they are the decision makers. But if transportation is an issue, let's identify that, and what are some of those issues around those things as to why they're not there. Mr. Martin?
Sure. I think it's certainly a welcome sight that attendance is trending upward. It's been well documented the challenges that the district has faced during the pandemic with getting attendance, getting students in front of in front of computer screens over the last couple of years. But very happy and certainly excited that we're back face-to-face full-time. We know we've lost a lot of students because of the pandemic, and our staff members are certainly glad that we're back face-to-face, and students and families are as well. In terms of chronic absenteeism,
telling the teachers why they can't make it to school, if they're late or they have to leave early? What are they telling you all?
Yeah, so I wanted to sort of touch on that. Chronic absenteeism has been an issue well before the pandemic. And so I think that has to be lifted. And the reasons that students are giving teachers are the same reasons that students gave teachers prior to the pandemic, from responsibilities at home, to not having the proper resources to attend school, to merely a lack of interest and accountability from the home in many instances. You've heard Angelique talk about students, making their own decisions whether or not they attend or not, and that is a very real thing. One of the things that we've tried to do on our end is simply control what we can control, and continue to encourage our students to attend each and every day, sharing with them how important it is to not miss a day. You think one day here, one day there, and it's no big deal. But our folks are steadfast in making sure that we're imparting knowledge to students at a higher rate as we possibly can, with the necessary rigor that's going to prepare them for the next level.
You were speaking about pre-COVID, and I had an opportunity to talk with Angelique about it before we were on the air, and the problem of the digital divide when our young people were not allowed in the classrooms. How did that affect our students?
Oh, it affected them tremendously. Sure, it affected them tremendously. I mean, not everyone has internet at home. Not everyone had machines, laptops to be able to connect. Thankfully, by from the help of big business and philanthropy, we were able to provide. The district was able to provide laptops, machines with internet connectivity to all students and families who needed them. But even that wasn't enough. When you talk about making sure that there is a level of accountability and interest in educating students, you can have a laptop, you can have connectivity, you can have all the things that you need in the home, but you got to have a wheel to make sure that you're sitting in front of that laptop and you're doing what you're supposed to do each and every day, each and every hour of the day. And so that's one of the areas in which we struggled during the pandemic. You're talking about 2 years, pretty much 2 whole years that students, had to adjust, and teachers had to adjust to not being able to reach out and touch students on a day-to-day basis. And also remember that the school is a hub for the neighborhood.
That's true.
Just like our churches are, just like some of our businesses are. Schools are the hub of the neighborhood. And when you take that away, that is something that our folks are accustomed to, our students are accustomed to, then now they're left up to their own devices.
Let me go to my second vice president, CBTU Detroit, who is an educator, and she wanted to be a part of this program. Laura, you have a question for our guest?
Well, yes, I do, because I'm going to switch lanes a little bit. We're talking about students, but I want to talk about those teachers in front of the kids. What are we doing for them, for their mental health well-being? Because it's important. If they're not healthy, regardless if the students were coming, they're not able to work to the highest of their capacity. I know AFT National has the trauma prevention program, but that's at the national level, and Terence is aware of that. But what are we doing at the local level to support our teachers? Because we still have large classroom sizes, especially I work with teachers, some of Terence knows, and Angelique, you may not know, but I do professional development for the district. And I meet with teachers weekly, and I hear the things that they want to share where they are afraid to share with administration because of repercussion. Even though I know we try to put those barriers where they won't get it, but they get it if they tell what's going on. And it's unheard of mentally what some of these teachers are going to. So what?
Laura, I'm going to interrupt you for 1 second. Can you speak a little louder or put your microphone closer to you? Because you're real faint.
Okay, I'm saying that we need something in place for mental health well-being for our teachers. Because if they're not well, regardless of how many students you're going to have those subs coming in and out, we have highly qualified teachers. Okay. I would like to know what the district is doing beyond when I was a member of the district where we went down and talked to some doctor you never saw and really saw a nurse.
Well, let's hear from both of our guests. Mr. Martin?
Yeah, and I want to know what's being done for them.
Mr. Sure, Martin? I will talk about what we are doing at the DFT level, and I'm sure Angelique will talk about what's happening at the district level. I'll talk about it from a very micro standpoint to a macro standpoint. One, we start our membership meetings with meditation. We've done that for our meetings for this year. We've done a few last year, but we're certainly noticing the same thing that you're noticing, Lois, that if folks are not centered and mentally ready and prepared to teach children, then our children are going to suffer, and they're going to suffer. Our teachers and teaching staff are going to suffer. So we try to add those pieces to what we do as a local. But what we've also done with the district at the bargaining table is add more professional development days. We have more professional development days now than I can ever remember the district having. And these are days that can be targeted for full day mental health services for our students, for our teachers, and for our staff members as a whole. This is very important. What we did last year was we used a lot of days for student recovery, learning recovery, right? Well, we're going to use this year for staff recovery. And making sure that we get our staff, our teaching staff, and our all that service students mentally and ready and prepared for the rigors of the school year. So those are some things that we have done. We've also reached beyond the state lines and nationally for those AFT services that you talked about a little bit earlier. These are our professional development times that you can teachers have access to that they can plug into when they need those services. But we know all the time, if it's in front of you, you may or may not take advantage of it. And so it's important to make sure that these are things that become standard in our schools and just simply a part of the regular school day and a part of what we do for staff members.
Thank you. And Mr. Martin, the only thing that I'll add, because I was going to actually speak to professional development as well. And I know Ms. Lofton Driver, I know she works with professional development. So she was making sure that there were certain professional development classes that were available based on some of the feedback that was received. The only thing that I'll add in addition is a lot of the schools are also implementing classroom space or school building space for that meditation period, for that meditation time. So to hear Mr. Martin say that they open up their meetings that way, I love that. And what principals are understanding is that there are times when teachers need to step away for a moment and go into a space so that they can just breathe and whatever that looks like. And so they've, brought in mood lights and they've created this ambiance of relaxation, whether it's on your prep, you use it at the beginning of the day, the end of the day. That is available in many of our schools. And what we're finding out is that for schools that don't have it, they're hearing from spaces that do have it. And they understand that this is becoming a best practice. So I just wanted to lift that up into, in addition to the professional development.
Does that help with your retaining of teachers, recruiting of new teachers, and the salary? Can you speak about that? Because we know we all hear about the teacher shortages around the country, the teacher shortages here in Michigan and Detroit. How are you going about attacking that problem?
So I'll start and I'll turn it over to Mr. Martin. Simply, I'll say that I was really proud of the last contract that we were able to reach and ratify it. I think it spoke highly to the priority of our educators. But I think what we've got to do going forward is we understand that we are not unique in that space where there's a shortage. And teachers find themselves in a space where they, and I use this term very loosely, but they're chasing a bag because they have to eat, they have to live. And so what does that look like as they try to go to other spaces? At one point, we had the highest wages for incoming teachers. And that was right before maybe before. I've lost 2 years mentally, I think too, but I think it was right in the beginning of pandemic. But then other districts found out about that. And because they have more unrestricted dollars, they were able to do something very similar and exceed. And so some of the other challenges that you experience when you're in a district weren't maybe in those spaces. And so I think as we go forward, as we talk about budgets, yes, we've had 4 years of a balanced budget. What does that mean? But we've got to continue to have the conversation around wages, because if not, we're going to find ourselves in a space with a school full of children and not enough teachers.
President Martin?
Yeah, I think what the rest of the world who aren't connected to schools have learned over the last 2 years is what folks who are connected with schools always knew over the last prior to the last 2 years, is that it extends beyond wages, working conditions, and benefits.
That's right.
The issues with attracting and retaining quality staff are something that we've been battling with for years. Mm-hmm. And if you'd like for me to go back and talk about how this was done by design, particularly by men in the early 1900s who pushed women to professions such as education and healthcare and said, this is all you can do, and we're going to cap how much you can make and how we're going to treat you. I mean, we can go all the way back there, but I won't. So we'll go back up. And I'll just simply say that what we have learned, even with interviewing teachers who've left the district, they always say it's way more than the wages, it's way more than the working conditions, and it's way more than the benefits. Mm-hmm. To put it in its very simplest form, people want to be excited and happy about getting up every day and servicing the students of the city of Detroit. And they want to be happy about the space and place that they choose or are assigned to work. Mm-hmm. And that simply hasn't been the case in all circumstances for our teachers. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that we have really tried to push, and I'm very happy and excited about the partnership that the union has with the school board. While we may not always agree on everything, what we've been able to do is really have open and honest conversations about what we each see as the issues. Absolutely. And what I will say is that what we've tried to do here at the DFT is really commission our members to be ambassadors to this profession. Mm-hmm. I was recruited to Detroit Public Schools by another Detroit Public School teacher, right? And so that's simply what it has to be. We have to be the ones to tell our own story. We have to be the ones to control our own narrative. And we have to be the ones to take some level of ownership in making sure that we can attract and retain the people that we certainly need. Because guess what? Every great teacher wants to work beside another great teacher.
And thank you, Mr. Martin, for that. Let me just add too, because he is 100% correct. And that's becoming the norm in all professions. I work at Ford Motor Company. People are walking away left and right. So it's not about, as he said, it's not necessarily about wages. It's more about value and enjoying and appreciating the space and where you're at. And I think as a district, we just have to do a better job telling our story. You know, as if all we talk about is negativity, then as a parent, why would I think about sending my child to a space where I only hear about negative aspects of that space versus all the amazing positive things that are happening, all of the success stories, all of the feel good, you know, where the news will never catch that stuff. We are our best ambassadors, and we've got to do a better job being ambassadors for our district.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that in a minute.
Jump in, but I do want to real quick.
Sure, go ahead. No, I was ready to come to you, but before I do, I just want to say it's very refreshing for the members of CBTU and the citizens of Detroit to hear and we know about President Peterson-Mayberry, what she's been doing for years, and hear you, President Martin, to say that how you working together, because it's about the kids, about all that. But Lois, I know you and I talked about, you were talking about Renaissance.
Yeah, well, you know, I would like to see, and I know we've worked on this, Terence, way back when John was in office, that we start really building up, not that we have really too many community schools, but we have some. Because some parents don't have the wherewithal to go to get their kids in Renaissance, the flagship schools. They can't stand in line all day because they got to work. And And it goes back to what you're saying, being that ambassador. Why aren't our community schools, not the flagship ones specializing, just a regular neighborhood school, I'll go back to using neighborhood, is conducive where the parent wants to send their child? I just had the experience with my granddaughter, which is sick. I wanted to keep her in Detroit because both her mother and father graduated out of the Detroit system. But we had a lot of concern because the neighborhood school they were putting it in the toilet. Then I had to try to get her into one of the flagship schools. A lot of parents don't have that connect, and that bothers me. But before you answer that, one component I like to just say that was missing when we talk about teachers or any staff, it is the respect. Teachers want to be respected for their knowledge. They want their agency so they know that what I say value, and that is lacking. That is truly lacking. So, okay, can I get a...
Sure, I certainly agree with you, and respect is certainly one of the huge components or reasons why folks leave the profession or don't stay in a particular school or a particular school district. But getting back to our neighborhood schools, you know, while I certainly agree that all of our neighborhood schools aren't up to par, I will offer you that many of them are. For every Bates Academy, I will offer you a Pasteur. For every King, Cass, and Renaissance, I'll offer you a Henry Ford, where they're doing absolutely fantastic things over there. And some of our other buildings that are in neighborhoods, Bagley Elementary, who has been a jewel in that neighborhood for a number of years, but just hadn't had, you know, the publicity, if you will, that some of our other schools have. And I think one of the main reasons why parents don't send their students to the neighborhood school is because they don't know about them. They don't know enough about them. And, you know, Lois, you know, just Angelique, and, you know, we grew up in a time where if our parents didn't like something that was happening at the school, they go to the school and change it. Instead of picking us up and taking us out and making a different decision. And so once we get back to that level of ownership and that level of advocacy for our own schools, our own students, and our own families, then I think we'll have a better opportunity to have great neighborhood schools at every building. I would also offer this. The union and the district, I think this is going to be the next challenge, to really provide quality community schools in every neighborhood. There are models throughout this country that are proven to serve communities such as similar to Detroit extremely well. They're doing a great job with community schools in New York, in Cincinnati, and in Chicago. A similar demographic to what we have here in Detroit. And I think that's going to be the next challenge for the union and the district to really come to the table with some models that work and make sense and work for Detroit, and really put those dollars behind our words and come to some level of agreement on how we bring that sort of model here. Because, you know, as I stated earlier, schools are proven to be the hubs, right? The hubs for a neighborhood. So it should be the place not only where you go or your student goes to get educated, but it should be also a place where parents can go and become educated, get healthcare services, get social services, places where there's recreation, not just from 8 o'clock to 3 o'clock, but extend beyond the regular school day where you can go get recreation, a place where you can go and get service. And we talk about the whole child, you know, really these community schools service the whole family. And we've really got to get to that level.
We're almost at the end of the program, and just listening to you and our board president, we feed a lot of children. A lot of people, our kids don't eat unless they go there. As we close this program, I want to go back to what Lois was saying. Our success stories. Let you, Mr. Martin, you, board president, talk about the successes of the Detroit public school district. People don't know about that. They may not know about, for example, the relationship with the security that are there, the $700 million going for facilities that are there. People don't understand that we have a legacy tax that we're still paying that other districts don't have. Share that with the audience before we close this program.
Well, yeah, I will say this, in spite of the restrictions that we have financially from the state of Michigan, we've been able to do some extraordinary
Absolutely.
From building upgrades to significant increases for staff members. But one of the things I want to talk about that I think is extremely important, and I'm very proud of, are two things. One, we now have language in our collective bargaining agreement where the district has agreed and the union has agreed that anyone who was harassed or feels intimidated or anything such as that in this school district, that those issues are going to be addressed. And contractually, that language is in our collective bargaining agreement. This is something that we have been very steadfast in making sure that we have. We talked about this years ago, even when John Elliott was president, trying to get language such as this, and we were finally able to get that done. But the other thing that I'm very, very proud of is during the pandemic, we were able to come together and provide pretty much every mitigation strategy that the CDC and whomever else was recommending at that time. We included that in this school district to make sure that students and staff members were as safe as the district could possibly make it. Anything you needed, from masks to humidifiers to whatever, to hand washing, whatever you needed, the district provided it. And many districts across this country got the funding to do it, but not everyone participated and made sure that it was a priority to keep people safe. And so I'm very proud of that, of what we were able to do relative to making sure that our folks were safe.
And I'll just add too, if I could even talk about really quick, people being unaware about neighborhood schools, and the schools are having open houses where parents can go in and see what's being offered. But I think even for our young people, since some of them are decision makers, we have this road show where you're as a middle schooler, 8th grader, you will go to the neighborhood high schools to see what they offer. And these schools, they roll it out for these students. I've been to several of them where the bands are present. You have all of your extracurricular activities. You have your academics being highlighted. And so young people have the experience, however, their parents need it. And so we do have to continue to do a better job. The other thing I'll say is that whether you have a child in the district or not, they're all our children. And so we've got to stop acting like if we don't have one in the district that lives in our household, then that the decisions and the activity that we do is different. Treat them all as if they are coming home to you every day. What would you want for your child? What situations? And if not, as Terence said earlier, they're not picking them up, taking them away. Let's fix what's going on. A lot of times there's an assumption that everybody is aware of what's going on, and nothing could be further from the truth. However, when it is brought to the light, then it is addressed because that accountability is there. The last thing I'll say, I am super excited about a few things. One, people don't know we have a public high school where you can graduate with a pilot license, Davis Aerospace. It's going back to the airport. It should have never moved, but that's where it's going. We've been working with the Tuskegee Institute to make sure that Tuskegee Airmen are there. And I think it's important that people understand that that is public education. Parents thought that was a charter school. They thought they had to pay. It's public education. We have all gender schools. We have career schools that have career academies where if your child is interested in something in particular, like advanced manufacturing, since I'm a baby of labor, there's a school for that. Are they interested in communication, media, and arts? There's a school for that. Are they interested in medicine? There's a school for that. What if you don't want your boys to go to school with girls? There's a school for that, or vice versa. There's a school for that. And I think those are those spaces that we've got to continue to tell more of our stories. And to Ms. Lois's point earlier, they all should be flagship schools, whether they're in the neighborhood or whether they're exam schools. And until we get them to that space, we got work to do.
But even relationships, Board President, you were telling me that with the safety officers, that's changed.
That's another thing, as we talked about We know that there at one of the meetings, all finance meetings, we go through line by line, we go through the budget. And so where are the priorities, where the budget? And there was a time when some stakeholders were uncomfortable about the amount of money that we were spending in that department. And so what happened is a reallocation and really a rebranding and realignment of that department. It's no longer called the DPSCD Police Department. It's called the DPSCD Public Safety Department, because they do so much more than what people think of policing children. That's not their task. That's not what they do. We control our own training. We control so it's important that if we know our families and we know our students, then those are the people that we want around every day. And so, when they did a presentation to say what they do, then people were really in awe that they do so much. But, they're a profession that I will say, you don't know their value until you need them. Right. You don't think that they're valuable until you need them. And then you're looking around wondering where they are. And so I think it's important after Oxford, people were reaching out, then trying to say, what are you all doing in Detroit and how can we do it? And so there were a lot of safety measures that we do every day. It's our norm that we're now being implemented in other school districts, because thank God we have not had situations like that. However, we do know that mental well-being, and I say mental well-being because it's only a mental illness if you've been diagnosed. Mental well-being and stability of a person's mental state is something that we've got to make sure that we are intentional about it, that we have resources for it, and that we make these partnerships for those who are doing it very well. Do it very well for our staff and students too. Don't do it. We need you in our buildings. We need you to do it with us. Our educators are trying to educate these young babies, and educating them now is far beyond reading, writing, and arithmetic. We see that every single day.
Well, thank you so much. And as we close the program, I want to give our third.
I thought you said we had 2 hours. No, I'm just kidding.
No. I can listen to both of you for 2 hours and learn. And I'm hoping our audience learned a lot of things like I have learned today about the great things that this school district has been doing, is doing, and will be doing even more as we go on. But they need our support. And again, from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank both of you, because that's what it's all about. You have labor and you have management working together for the good of the children. But let me give the last word to Ms. Lois, because she is a teacher, and this program is also to uplift all teachers, not only in Detroit, but around the world. Ms. Lois?
Well, Michael, you have said it all, and our two guests have really hit on everything. And I am happy about the mental health well-being, and also how we are doing in the community schools. I'm out in the community. I'm out here, and I didn't know some of these things. I don't get to hear those positive stories. When they call me late at night, or I get a text or that email, it's excuse the language, the shit has hit the wall, and they are complaining and complaining. Lois, can you talk?
I'm gonna bleep that out, right? I'm gonna bleep that out, right?
That's okay. Defecation.
But thank you, dear.
But I thank you guys. I thank you.
We thank all of you right at the end. And just for a disclaimer,
Michael, 1 second.
Yes, go ahead, dear.
You need to check on. I'm on a state committee for the Special Ed Advisory Committee. And you did have a representative on there, but she got promoted to Director of Special Ed. A board of 51 people, you only have 5 Blacks. I am going to be term limited out come June. And they have written the laws. You know how you keep moving the goalposts? You keep moving it, so I can't come back. By the time 3 years from now, I don't want to be going up to Lansing. But the district needs a person of color. Terence, I will talk to you offline about what I want you to be thinking about. But once I leave there, you will only have 4 Black faces that can speak about the needs of children of African-American descent. You have 2 Asians, you blah, blah. But when it comes down to African-Americans, and they're very proud of this, that they have 5 of us. We are on the table as the entree. We're not really having a seat at the table, because you're going to be voted out.
We're going to be at that table. And we're going to have to go.
That's what I would like you to look into that. And if you need more information, but it is Lauren Magnozzi. She was on that board with me for a brief moment, and she went to director. And to my knowledge, when I was there last week, I did not have a person from DPS or from the school district. And we need.
We're gonna have to do that offline because we're at the end of the program.
I'm not talking anymore.
Oh, you fine. No, you're fine. Just I'm the moderator. I got to keep us going. But again, I want to thank both of you for joining us. But I do have to do this disclaimer. Angelique Peterson-Mayberry is a member of the Detroit chapter of CBTU. She is also a candidate running for re-election as the board president. Again, we do not endorse her, but we want to let you know, so you know what we know. And Brother Terence, I want to recruit you as a member of Detroit CBTU. So I need more teachers.
It's done.
The most important thing, and recruit
some more. That was the last
men teachers. Get some more men teachers there.
He's giving you his word, Mike. So when Terence gives you his word, you can take that to the bank.
Oh,
so
I know.
We'll be on it together.
Yes, but the most important thing is to say thank you to both of you for the work you're doing. Please, President Martin, let your teachers know that how much we respect them for the work they do. President Peterson-Mayberry, thank you for the work that you do and your colleagues do. Because, by the way, I know she don't get paid to do that. But the most important thing is it's all about our children. That's what this program is all about. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time from CBTU Detroit. Good night.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Thank you.